I want to be a great one, though. I want to be one of the greatest. I just want to be considered one of those top running backs in the league. So that's one of the things I got to do to be like a Alvin Kamara or a Christian McCaffrey. So, and that's what I've been working on. Hope that I can do it during the games and things like that.
He's a borderline RB1, RB2. A lot of people in drafts already taking him ahead of David Montgomery. Yes, I've been geeking out doing mock drafts, but Mike Garafolo joining us now from Maryland. Mike, what can you tell us about the Ravens' expectations for J.K. Dobbins this season? And hello.
Listen, this is an offense that wants to be different, that wants to be less predictable, that wants to have you defend more things than you've had to defend the last couple of years. And this is not really an offense that has relied upon the running back as a receiver. Mark Ingram had 26 catches a couple of years ago. Really, not since Lamar Jackson has taken over here have they had a running back be a receiver. Buck Allen had 46 catches about 4 years ago, and since then they've been in the 20s and the teens. So for J.K. Dobbins to say that, yeah, that makes sense given the fact that the Ravens talk all spring about wanting to be more multiple offensively. And for Dobbins in particular, to be in the same breath as some of those guys, that means a couple of things. One, you've got to be reliable. He is reliable. Since the start of his college career through right now, he's missed one game, and it was last year because of COVID. So that's number one. Number two, you got to be able to get open. And his route running coming out of college was something that did excite a lot of scouts. They said he can move pretty well in space. This is a guy that could be a dual threat weapon. But the other thing, we always talk about it, if you want to be on the field all 3 downs as a running back, you better be able to pass protect as well. And that is something that he's continued to work on. Wasn't necessarily one of his strengths coming out of college. But he certainly has the skill set to make it happen. And it's in a year now with Lamar Jackson at quarterback, going under center more, and this offense starting to expand a little bit more, that it would mesh with the philosophy that they've got offensively in the building right now. So, yeah, listen, the opportunity is there for J.K. Dobbins to make it happen. Let's see if he can do it.
Mike, you mentioned quarterback Lamar Jackson. He's still in quarantine after testing positive for COVID-19. Can you give us an update on his timeline?
So, Nate, when it comes to return from COVID this year, you've got 2 different timelines. You've got the vaccinated and the unvaccinated timeline. For vaccinated folks, and we talked about this with Frank Wright because he's fully vaccinated, you just need 2 negative tests separated by at least 24 hours. For non-vaccinated folks, it's the mandatory 10 days just like it was last year for everyone. Lamar Jackson refused to tell the media a couple of weeks ago when he was asked whether he's vaccinated or not. He said, that's a personal decision. I'm not going to talk about it. I will say this, though. My understanding is at this point next week is right about when you'd expect for Lamar Jackson to be coming back. Doesn't sound like anybody's expecting him back here in the next couple of days. So it's not the end of the world, provided he's healthy, which, or not healthy, but, at least dealing with COVID as best as possible. And that seems to be the case right now. And that's what you hope continues for Lamar Jackson personally. But from a missed football standpoint, it's not the end of the world because it's, a former MVP and a guy that's been around for a couple of years. He's a dynamic player, obviously. But I will say, and I just mentioned this with Dobbins, the Ravens are trying some new tricks offensively. So that's a week's worth of reps plus that Lamar Jackson's going to be without and his teammates on offense are going to be without. So that's a little bit of a downer for the Ravens as they start camp here.
He's, of course, looking for a payday here in the near future. I think it's fascinating to think how that will go in Baltimore. Mike, I am enjoying these sounds of that lawnmower in back of you so much that I would like to keep you as part of this conversation on Lamar Jackson.
It's
so
like
stay here.
Sorry, it's like my own personal hard knocks here. You know, you got the sprinklers and the mowers as you cut from scene to scene. That's what we got going on there.
Yeah, Mike said it. He's a dynamic player. He might be the best player, what he can do on the field. No one else can. He's very unique. He's an MVP. He's won playoff games. He's quieted doubters. What do you think as far as reasonable expectations for him this year?
Yeah, listen, I mean, I've called him Lamarkable for a reason. I think Lamar Jackson is a phenomenal talent. And, I know a lot of people will say, all right, it's a make or break a year. And, they want to blame him for certain losses. And I go back to like a couple of years ago when they lost to the Titans, it wasn't him that couldn't tackle Derrick Henry. So he as a quarterback, you take that L, even though it's not your fault. But the defense, failed him right there. I mean, that could have been a totally different game if they had found a way to stop him. But I look at Lamar this year, and I'm like thinking, year 3, like, all right, listen, like now's your time to shine. Like, let's go. I want to see that next level. You know what you guys all have in common with Lamar Jackson?
Toss.
You guys have the same amount of 300-yard passing games last season.
I don't have any.
0. Neither does Lamar. That's remarkable. When you look at that stat, you think, how is that even possible? I think that was a big part of the offseason. We're drafting Rashad Bateman, bringing in Sammy Watkins. That's not going to happen. I don't expect it to happen. But that's one area where I think Lamar has to improve.
For sure. And I think we need a reintroduction to Lamar. Lamar, in a lot of ways, even though he was great last year and won the playoff game, he feels like he's been eclipsed in this world by Josh Allen. Even Justin Herbert it gets more love than Lamar right now. And I think we have to remember how good he is. I would just say this, the expectations, you got to lead the team to the Super Bowl. I think there are about 5 teams in the AFC. Take the Chiefs out if they have different expectations. Who they have to get to a Super Bowl this year, it's disappointing. I'm going to think it's the Ravens, it's the Bills, the Titans, the Browns, and the Steelers. And that's a lot of teams in the AFC North. Someone's not going to do it. Someone's not going to make the playoffs. It can't be Lamar. If they get to even a title game this year, I do think it's a bit of disappointment.
Yeah, I would say expectations are to win the MVP. And I know that doesn't come along with an automatic bid to the Super Bowl, but it just shows the growth of Lamar Jackson to be the unanimous MVP. And then you have individuals like Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers who are capable of getting that award and still playing in their prime. And then he snatches it and proves that I've improved not just as a passer but also as a runner. And I also feel like he's going to have to run the ball like he has been. The only quarterback with 2 consecutive 1,000-yard rushing seasons. Don't stop that.
That works.
That is your strength. Listen, Vince Carter dunked until he couldn't dunk anymore. And then he started working on the mid-range. So don't work on the mid-range now.
He's still on the Raptors.
Yeah, he's still on the Raptors.
He's still hitting fadeaways.
Yeah, go ahead and jump over dudes, take off from the free throw line, do exactly what you need to do, and use your superpower. So I say MVP, rush for another 1,000, and then, like we're all saying, you have to get to a Super Bowl. If he does all of those things, this dude is going to be the highest paid quarterback in all of football.
They are a run, change his number. They're a run-heavy team. They win that way in the regular season. Different story. They added weapons to help the passing game, and that's what it'll take in those crucial moments in the postseason. Mike Garafolo is in Maryland. He'll be with Ian Rappaport in a bit. Garafolo, any final thoughts before we say goodbye for a bit?
A couple final thoughts. One, Rappaport not here, sleeping in. Just completely unacceptable. That's number one. Number 2, when you talk about Lamar Jackson, one thing I wish I could do right now is be a fly on the wall for negotiations between him and the team right now as they try to hammer out that contract extension, because O'Hara knows this. The team will talk you up. Then when it comes to contract negotiations, they got to tell you where the holes in your game are as they try to make an offer that comes in lower than what you're hoping to get, right? So that's the conversation, and I do wonder how much they talk to him about, hey, you need to be a more of a drop-back passer. You need to be able to throw vertically and to the outside. That's what John Harbaugh himself said last year. Lamar's going to have to prove to teams that he can do it. He's still going to have to prove it, because I know defensive coordinators out there feel like they can game plan a certain way against Lamar Jackson. But again, this offense continues to evolve, and they hope that he can close those holes in his game this year.